my factor tree for 56? I know that's even, so that's going to be 2 times 28. And 28 is even, so that's going to be 2 times 14. 14 is even, that's going to be 2 times 7. Seven is actually a prime. So I have now factored it all the way down where I have all prime numbers. So I'll take that pair, those go on the outside, that's going to be 2. Now for the 2 and 7, this is a little different because this guy doesn't have a pair and this guy doesn't have a pair. So I have to leave both of them underneath, but I multiply them back out. So I do 2 times 7 underneath because neither one had a pair. And then don't forget I have to bring that 3 down from out front. So our final answer will be 6 square root of 14. So on the last couple that we did, you guys are doing a good job of your factor trees when you are dividing by something. So for example, most of you look at, say this last problem we did and say, okay, well, 56 is divisible by 2. So that's a good idea. You can use your calculator and divide it by 2, but it's not divisible by 2. Then try 3. And if it's not divisible by 2 or 3, then try 5. And you want to work your way through the primes, but it almost always works with either 2 or 3 or 5. And then sometimes 7 or 11 or so on, but typically those 3 work. Now, in the next section, it's similar, but we have a couple of different parts. I don't know if you're going to think this is harder or easier, but what we want to do is we want to multiply these things. And there's many ways that we can do this. Okay, the first thing is things that are underneath the radical, like the 2 and the 6, we can multiply those and write that as 3 times the square root of 12. I got 12 by doing 2 times 6. And I got the 3 from this guy. So this is one way to do it, is to multiply them together. And now it looks just like one of the problems that we were doing. Okay, the 3 we're going to leave for the end. And we're going to take the 12 and do our factor tree. So I know that that could be 2 and 6. 2 is a prime. And then 6 would be 2 and 3. So I have it down to all prime numbers. So once we have it down to all prime numbers, I pair them up. That 2 goes on the outside. This 3 doesn't need a pair. Remember, that was on the outside already. And then this guy's left over. And so our final answer would then be 2 times 3 is 6, square root of 3. Okay, so kind of one more step from what we were doing. Is I just multiplied the 6 times 2 and got 12, and then went from there. So in problem number 2, I can do, something similar. Multiply anything on the outside. So 4 times 5 is 20. And anything on the inside, 2 times 20 would be 40. So I just multiplied outside stuff and inside stuff. And now it looks just like our previous problem. Okay, we're going to leave the 20 for the end. But we'll do our factor tree for 40. So I know that 40 is even, right? So I'll make that 2 and 20. I'm going to make 20 2 times 10. And I make 10 2 times 5. And now I'm down to all prime numbers. So I'll pair them up. That 2 is going to be a 2 on the outside. I have that 20 that I'm going to bring down. And then I have the 2 and the 5 left over, so don't forget you have to multiply those. And so then our final answer will be 40 square root of 10. Okay, so if we're multiplying, we can multiply stuff on the outside and multiply stuff on the inside. If we're dividing, like in problem number 3, these are both inside, so I can just divide those numbers. Well, 42 divided by 7 is 6, and so look at this one, it's a quick one. The answer is the square root of 6, which can't be simplified. Okay, I just, because they were both underneath the square roots, we could just divide both of those. On number 4, we can't do that because the 5 is not underneath the square root. So I can't just divide 125 by 5. So in that case, we have to treat it as, I'm going to do the square root of 125 first, like we were doing before. So I'm going to write that off to the side. I'm going to do this and do a factor tree for just the top. Well, it's not even, so 2 doesn't go into it. So then I break out my calculator and try and divide it by 3, but 3 doesn't go into it either. So if 2 doesn't work and 3 doesn't work, try 5. And 5 actually does work because 5 times 25 is 125. And then that 25, I can split into 5 and 5. So now I have all prime numbers. And so for those pairs, I get 5 on the outside. And I have a square root of 5 left over. But remember, that's only the numerator. That's just the top. The bottom, don't forget, that's all divided by 5. Okay, because we have to put that bottom there. So we just did the top independently and then put it over the bottom. And now our 5s actually will cancel. And so our final answer is just the square root of 5. Just a little different twist with those when we're multiplying and dividing. But remember, stuff that's on the outside goes together, and stuff that's on the inside goes together. All right, any questions, guys?